Hi, you all. How are you? I just want to address a simple question, and it's someone was concerned about forcing their children to worship and or pray, right? And she remembers in her childhood that she was forced to pray and worship, and then she fell away from the Lord and all this stuff. Well, I just want to address that simple question. How do you get your children to worship? Now, I know I made a video recently about just a powerful moment in our home where my children were worshiping, I was worshiping, and we just felt the power of the Holy Spirit in the midst of us. And I just want to let you all know that this is completely possible with anyone whose hearts are turned to the Lord. Now, my kids learn to worship over time. So they've been in the church all their lives. They've been going to church since they were babies, and they just learned how to worship. It's natural to them. I believe, like right now, my baby Aaliyah, she worships with us. She raises her hands up in the air, and she worships, and she sings, and she yells, and she dances, and she laughs. And it's a beautiful thing. And she'll try to sing the songs with us and everything. And she's only 9-10 months. So any person whose heart is turned to the Lord, who is in great expectation that God is going to do something wonderful, and maybe, God doesn't always do something wonderful, but you just want to render yourself to Him, and you just want to show Him and honor Him, show Him your love and honor Him, right? So it takes time for kids to learn this. It takes time, especially if your child is always nurturing his flesh or her flesh. So for example, if your child is always seeking self-pleasure, if your child is always thinking about the next game or the next video or the next thing he's going to eat or the next thing he's going to do that's just for himself, then it's going to be really hard for him to think about someone else, even God. So if your child has struggled with this, what I do recommend is that you begin to feed his spirit. And how do you feed his spirit? Well, it does take time, and it takes it could take several weeks, right? Where you wake up every morning and you focus on feeding the spiritual aspect of your son. And you do this in different ways. So there are many different ways. You wake up and you pray. You wake up and you worship. Even when you don't feel like it, you model it to them. You teach them. Let them see you on your knees. Let them see you worshiping. Let them see you crying out to God. Don't keep your prayers inside anymore. Shout them out in the middle of the day. And sometimes, like, my kids are just playing, and I begin to pray. I was at the playground the other day, and I began to cry out to the Lord and pray. And I said, if anyone's driving by, they're looking at this lady, and she's like shouting out, and she's throwing punches, and they must think I'm crazy. But that's what I learned to do. I learned to, anywhere I am where I feel a spiritual atmosphere that's heavy, I start to pray. So God has matured me in this aspect, whereas before it wasn't so easy for me to worship, and it wasn't so easy for me to stop what I'm doing and think about the spiritual realm. It wasn't so easy for me to see what was going on in the spiritual atmosphere. But little by little, God starts to open your eyes. So what I do recommend is that you start feeding their spirit. You start feeding them before they feed themselves. You start giving them a little bit of that holiness, of that, just being before the Lord. And it's a great experience. I mean, they can cry, they can shout, they can do so many things. I don't know. I'm Pentecostal, so I don't know. That's the way I do it. But if you're denomination doesn't do those things, then maybe you do it in a different way. You may show it in a different way. And I'm not saying that any way is correct. It's just the way that I learned how to do it, and the way I feel like I am connected with the Lord. So you might feel like you want to put on worship music in the morning and play a piano, and it might be really peaceful and smooth and beautiful. Okay, and that's okay. So what I do recommend is that you begin to feed your children's spirit, and you begin to give them more of God, and you begin to not take away, but those rewards, those, self-pleasure and all those things can come later, after they did, after they fed their spirit, their mind, their bodies, they can do all those other things that entertain them, right? And I'm not a person to say that entertainment is bad, but we do have to be careful. There are a lot of people out there just following entertainment, and they just want to entertain themselves all the time. A lot of people out there that think that life is all about Disney and all about movies and all about just going out there to all these amazing places in Central Florida, because there are awesome places here. But we have to remember that everything has a measure, everything has a balance, everything should have a balance, and that God should be placed first. So whenever we're putting all those other things before God, we are idolizing them. We are lifting up idols left and right, and we think that those things are going to make us happy and fulfill our hearts, right? And in that empty spot in our souls. So just remember, we have to take everything for what it is. When I go to Disney, I know I'm going to have fun, but it shouldn't be the center of my life. The center of my life is God. The center of my life is it's just Him, and that's what I teach my kids. So I hope this was of benefit to some of you. If you have any questions, just email me, call me, text me. I have my number on the website, and I have my email there, and I'm about to head to this Congress and have fun. Bye.